Hi folks, Tino here with a Champions League draw special. I'm joined here by Asim. It's all a wee bit fast and loose here, but we're in at Celtic Park for the draw, and it's a bit unusual for us to be here on a Thursday night, but here we are. Asim, your initial response to the draw, it's an interesting one to say the least.
Yeah, it was interesting as we were watching it unfold, because I think we were just getting used to how the new format was and how the draw shaped up. But my initial reaction to it was, I'll need to double check, but I think you couldn't really have handpicked it to go a bit much better than that. Obviously you don't want to speak too soon, but in terms of a favourable draw, out of the 36 teams, I think we probably got the most favourable set of fixtures. On my first glance, I was looking at every team's fixtures there. I think we probably got the most favourable set, and it's exciting as well. Like it's all part of the new format and all the new buzz. But as we were all sat in Celtic Park watching it one by one, you're like, take that, take that, and it's it's a lot to look forward to.
What's the one that stands out for you? We were sitting together at the time, and when Dortmund landed, Dortmund away, I find that exciting. It's been a long time. I'll need to check, and as I say, there's not a lot of research going into this particular show, but we'll catch all that in the coming weeks. But I'll need to check when Celtic and Dortmund last went head to head.
Word on the cloud,
really? Potentially.
I can't think of anything more recent.
The man was sitting in that very chair not long ago. And that in itself, just the yellow wall and the aura around Dortmund away, that could be a really special one.
Yeah, to be honest, that was, if you look at out of all the teams that we've played, it's probably the biggest team, the most kind of glamorous team from the 8 fixtures. And what an away trip that'll be. It's one that fans have probably spoke about, because we've done all the big ones. We've been to Munich, we've been to Barcelona, been to Madrid. Dortmund's one of those iconic away trips and stadiums that we've not been to in recent times. And it's if you look at the pot 1 options, again, when I say the words such as weaker, obviously I'm not naive enough to think that we can even speak like that given Celtic's recent record. But you're looking at the options and what we could have got, and I think that was one of the best options there. And then you've obviously got Leipzig as the other pot 1 team. Fantastic. It was, me, yourself, and Matt McGregor were sitting there watching it unfold, and each time it was coming up, this is not like Celtic, because it's usually the opposite, isn't it? It's like the group of death usually.
What do you think of the new format in general? So there's a lot of chat about it. There's some really good explainer videos, and we shared one just the other day there. And we now know, and I'm sure a lot of folk tuning in will have watched the draw, so it's 36 teams. But to a huge extent, the pot you're in, so Celtic are pot 3, the pot you're in doesn't really matter to an extent, and you can get thrown in with anybody and everybody. The Champions League for me was becoming a wee bit stale in recent years. I know it sounds funny, but you were kind of getting bored of seeing like Real Madrid coming up against Bayerns and Juventus and PSGs. It was getting a wee bit same old. Aye. This exciting new format, I think it's certainly in the favour of clubs at Celtic's level. 100%. I think it presents us with a genuine chance, and that's how I feel at this moment in time. But what about the format in itself? What do you think?
Yeah, as soon as I kind of started reading up about it more over the summer, I liked the sound of it. I think the fact that obviously the 2 extra games stands out straight away, but the fact it's 8 different teams as opposed to the three teams but home and away. I just, like as you said, I think that just got a bit boring, a bit repetitive, playing the same teams over. Whereas you look at the teams that we've drew this time, other than Leipzig, I can't think of any other ones from that lot that we played in recent times. Mm-hmm. And it definitely gives us more of a chance, I think, under this new format to finish. Well, we've all been speaking about finishing that top 24, and without getting ahead of myself, you look at how those home fixtures have fallen, and what you'd ideally want to be picking up points, and a lot will maybe depend in these next 24 hours what we do, Tino. But if we're really ambitious, you think you can compete in a lot of those games now. So no, I think the competition needed freshened up, and just from a Celtic point of view, I think we're in with a shout.
The draw was only concluded a short time ago, but already I'm sure you've had a glance on Twitter. There's the image of Billy McNeil holding the European Cup aloft, but Callum McGregor's face has been superimposed onto it. And I think the draw, that's obviously tongue-in-cheek, but I think the draw it's excited Celtic fans. I think, as I say, there's a freshness about it, there's a novelty about the format. And I think looking, certainly on paper, I couldn't tell you a great deal about Dynamo Zagreb or Club Brugge at this moment in time, for example, but I think on paper, they look like completable, if not winnable games so far, and that's the exciting thing. One thing we are guaranteed, Asim, with the new format is European football after Christmas, which hasn't always been a guarantee in recent times. Let me confirm the draw.
Yes.
Obviously, most folk will be aware of it, but I'll confirm the teams that we're up against. So we face RB Leipzig at home, then it's Dortmund, and this won't be the order, by the way, we're waiting on dates, but in terms of the teams, so Leipzig at home, Dortmund away, Atalanta away, Club Brugge at home, Young Boys of Bern at home, Dynamo Zagreb away, Slovan Bratislava at home, and then Aston Villa away. From my point of view, Asim, when asked, people say, who do you want, who do you fancy in the draw? I says, give us an interesting glamour type away tie. Dortmund ticks that box for me. And give us somebody from the English Premier League, and Villa ticks the box there. I think those two are the most exciting. But what jumps out for you? What's your own feeling there?
Obviously we spoke about the Dortmund one already. If you're being very picky, the only one there that I feel like we could have maybe got a more favourable was the Villa from pot 4. I think there were more favourable options there, but that's us being really picky, because I look through that list and you look at the pot A options, and I think I was telling you before that I was looking at Lille, who were pot 3, same as Celtic, and I'll try and find it, but you look at the teams that they've got and what we could have got and compare it, it's night and day. So Lille, for example, in pot 3 have got Real Madrid, Liverpool, Juventus, Atletico Madrid, Feyenoord, Sporting Lisbon, Sturm Graz and Bologna.
Yeah, so it's glamorous, but they're going out.
They're going, and you remember now, we're actually essentially competing with every other team. So it's no longer just about that select group that you're playing against. We're competing against Lille to get more points in our 8 games than they are in there. And if you look at the 2 fixtures, you're like, right, we've got a lot more favourable fixtures.
Yeah.
So yeah, the 2 you mentioned, Villa away, like you said, an English team always adds a bit. To be honest, I've personally not wanted to face English teams in the past, but if you're going to get one, I think Villa's the one you'd pick. And then what stands out for me, it might not be the most exciting, but playing teams like Bratislava, Club Brugge, who's the other one? Leipzig and Young Boys at home, they're all winnable games. And I know, again, people might be like, well, how can you say that? We've won one home game in 10 years. But again, we're obviously going into this competition this year with a bit more hope. Brendan Rodgers has got the team playing well. If we add a few more quality signings, you look at those kind of fixtures, winnable games, points could be accumulated.
You're spot on. I mean, winnable, and certainly games that Celtic can compete in. In terms of the home games, I would see Leipzig as potentially the hardest one of them. Club Brugge, Young Boys and Bratislava. And listen, they might be sitting doing their podcast right now going, there's a banker 6 points from Celtic, or 3 points, from Celtic with the new format. But I think with the teams that we face at home, that's a serious chance to get points on the board. I think you were telling us a story earlier on that Hamish had projected something out, basically suggesting that 10 points should be enough to get you to the next round, the knockout stage or the playoff stage. 3 wins and a draw gets you that, and Celtic could and should be targeting that from their home games alone, meaning that anything you get on the road is a bonus.
Yeah, so Hamish from Celtic AM, so he basically, I watched one of his videos and simulated it on Football Manager, which is fairly realistic in terms of how they project score lines to go. So he did it over the course of 7 seasons to kind of get a rough gauge of the team that finishes 24th, how many points they accumulate.
I see he's keeping busy out there on his travels. He's got time in his hands.
Plenty of time, but he's great with that kind of stuff, even his explanatory videos on the draw. But the team that finished 24th, basically, and I think one season had 8 points, one season had 9, and the rest were 10 across this 7-year sample period.
Okay.
So 10 was always enough to get you in that top 24. That seems to be the magic spot. Occasionally you might be able to do it with 9. Obviously there may be some anomalies where it's not, but by and large it looked like if you can get 10 points, you're pretty safe to be in the top 24. And you've just looked at those 4 home games that we've got. Right, Young Boys at home, Slovan Bratislava at home, Club Brugge at home, and Leipzig at home. So see the other, like Slovan Bratislava came through the qualifiers. These are the kind of teams that we'd normally play in qualifiers. Bratislava, Young Boys, Club Brugge. Like you said, the games that we should be trying to make Celtic Park a fortress again and trying to get some points on there. So 100%, and you'd like to think that the board and the management and the players are all looking at this draw, not in a complacent way or anything, but in a way to think, right, okay, we've got a right good opportunity here. Add a bit more quality and you'll give yourself an even better opportunity.
Yeah, and we're obviously, bang at the the peak of the summer transfer window, and it looks like Celtic have done some decent business. Maybe we'll catch a brief chat on that before we wrap up here. But there was a lot of folks saying, why should Celtic go and spend 8, 9, 10 million on players and you're only going to maybe get one extra round, and what's the point, kind of thing. A very defeatist attitude in my opinion. I think there's a real opportunity here. This format, this set of fixtures in front of us here, I think that presents an opportunity for Celtic to say, why not go for it? Why not take the handbrake off for once in a generation and just really have a go at this European thing and see what it takes us? This is a whole new format for everybody.
Yes.
And who knows what can happen when that's the case. It'll potentially settle down in the years ahead. But who's to say a team like Celtic couldn't? I'm not saying we're going to win. I'm not getting way ahead of myself. We might come second. But there's a chance to progress. And progression for Celtic means not just the 8 games that were guaranteed. Can we get 10 games? Can we get 12 games? And can we just see what happens? You've got to win it to win it. And I think now is the time, as much as any time in recent history, for Celtic to really have a go at things here.
Yeah, it's the inaugural competition in this form. So everyone's eyes are going to be on it. Everyone's going to be looking to see how it works out, how it pans out. And look, I know that I'm very excited, as people will probably be able to tell ever since the draw. I'm just looking at it, I'm like, because I predict, the night before everyone's putting their favourite draw, I think I'd put 4 of those teams as the ones I would have picked, which, that's quite a high percentage for them to come off. And it just gives us a right good opportunity to pick up points. And as you say, show that ambition. And also the way the format works is the higher up you are, like the higher position you are, the more favourable draw you get in the next round as well, because it's like a seeding system now, like the way they do in tennis. So say you finish, 10th, you're more likely to face a team that's 24th, and that's the way it works. So again, there's just so much hope there for us to try and actually give this a right good go. And as you say, Copenhagen got to the last 16 last year, Club Brugge the year before. It should definitely be our aim, especially with the draw now the way it is, to try and extend past this group phase. I'm looking forward to it, and hopefully, as you say, we'll get a few more transfers in that can bolster our confidence.
And as much as we're talking about Celtic spending 8, 9, 10 million pounds to get a couple of players in, the financial rewards are there for success in this competition. I believe there's a right few quid
just per point.
I need to check this. Should have checked before coming on. Something between 3 and 4 million per win. And then what happens when you progress? You'll get more money, there's more gate receipts, there's more everything.
You'll make back the money you spent on Engles just with a good group stage performance.
Exactly.
That's how big the figures are.
So a brave signing such as that, and the suggestions are 11 million, which is mind-blowing for Celtic. But you could and should make that back. Not easily, that's the wrong term, but it's there for you to make that back. I think Brendan Rodgers and the players will be thriving on this opportunity. What we'll do is we'll cut through some of the teams here. So there's eight teams to choose from, and we'll try and pick out what some of the stories will be, some of the narratives around those teams. Let's start with somebody close to home in terms of Aston Villa. I'm sure there'll be a bit of chat around John McGinn, massive Celtic fan. He's never hidden that. I seen a thing recently where he still proclaims Larsson to be his idol. He was looking for a birthday shout out from Henrik Larsson. So there'll be a lot of chat around John McGinn for that one, but there's no end of links. Celtic and Villa connections. Martin O'Neill, from a managerial stance, Chris Sutton, Alan Thompson,
Stan Petrov, and
Collymore, who's very kind to Celtic on Twitter, obviously a Villa guy as well. What do you think of that one? There'll be a lot of, you'll get Battle of Britain headlines and all that stuff, but I think it's really interesting. Celtic in the summer, and I know it's summer pre-season, went head to head with Man City and Chelsea and gave a very good account of themselves. But that's friendlies, this is serious stuff. And there's so many guys, I'm thinking of guys like Jason Cundy and all your TalkSport guys that cannot wait to talk down Celtic, Jamie O'Hara and the likes, although he's a wee bit more favourable. But they'll be just waiting to say I told you so, and my granny could score goals in the Scottish League. It would be really, really confidence boosting for Celtic to put down a marker and show we can compete with these kind of sides.
It's probably part of the reason why I've previously not wanted an English side, because of that, just that fear of here they go again, But it's strange saying that, because over my time supporting Celtic, we've actually probably done pretty well against English sides. You look at Liverpool and Blackburn in the Seville run, qualified by beating Man United 1-0, Nakamura, famous free kick, drew twice with Man City in Rodgers' first season. So by and large, we've actually favoured pretty well against English sides. So I don't know, where that fear comes from, but I think it's, as you say, it's they like to throw that in your face if they do. And likewise, we'll do the same if we get a result. I think it's a good matchup. Obviously, out of the is it four English sides that are in the Champions League, they'll obviously, it's their first time in this form, in this competition, in this form. But they've signed well in summer. They look like they've started the season pretty well. I know they got beat off Arsenal at the weekend, but yeah, I think that's a good test for us. It probably is one of our most difficult games out of the 8, but a great measure. And Brendan Rodgers will love coming up against a manager like Unai Emery. You know, he'll relish that. So I think that's one that he'll secretly be looking forward to. And I've got no qualms that we can go there and they'll be a good side. We've seen that. He's got them playing really well drilled. But I think that's one to look forward to.
I think we'll all look forward to it. I think Brendan Rodgers will be delighted to get an English team. Brendan Rodgers backs himself at all times, and I think he's been hugely successful generally in his career, but certainly at Celtic, won a lot of trophies, but his European record hasn't been great. It doesn't stack up well at this moment in time, and he'll be very keen to reverse that. And coming up against a team from the EPL where he's got his detractors and always has done, there was always people to talk him down even when he was doing good things at Liverpool, and I think the chance to go toe-to-toe with a talented manager in Unai Emery will be something he'll relish, and it's exactly why Brendan Rodgers is here. Yeah,
this is what he lives for. And people say about his European record, and look, I know we suffered some heavy defeats, but he's the one who got us our last away victory in the Champions League in Anderlecht, one of only 2 victories we've ever had in that competition, and also our first home victory in the last 10 years. Now I know it was a dead rubber. So, but I did feel there was progress in many elements of our games last season under Rodgers. I just think we were just short in certain aspects. But you look at the home games in particular, obviously beat Feyenoord, Atletico Madrid, brilliant performance by and large, unlucky not to win. The Lazio game was the sickener because, again, should have won that. Had the Palma offside goal and then obviously the sucker punch at the end. But it was small margins. Atletico Madrid away game aside, every game we were competitive in against teams that are arguably stronger than a lot of teams that we'll play here, if not the same level. So a year down the line, playing much better this season than we were last season, adding in the likes of Engles and a few more hopefully. Yeah, you're confident that Rodgers, as you say, he backs himself, and I back him for us to have a reasonable campaign this year.
I think more than reasonable. Getting ahead of myself.
I know I am as well, and I think the next 24 hours, will speak a lot for that. I know we've kind of spoke about transfer, we'll probably touch on that before the end as well, but I do still think there's a couple of areas where we need to just strengthen, solidify, and then we'll feel so much better.
I got accused this week, Asim, of being too optimistic.
Never.
By a fella, Jazz, who's a good friend of the show, emails back and forward, and said I was too optimistic, but listen, what's the alternative? Doom and gloom?
Yeah.
You need to look forward to
if we can't be optimistic now at the start of the season when we're playing this well and getting a draw like that, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? We have to be. So I'm on your camp as well, Tino.
I like to hear it, mate. It's here to be enjoyed. So in terms of the other teams, so we've covered Villa there. Let's skip past Bratislava, Dinamo Zagreb and Young Boys at this moment in time because don't have enough data about them in terms of how they've shaped up, what they've done in the summer, how they've fared in Europe in recent seasons. Club Brugge are a club who are on our radar though, because I think at times recently folks have suggested Celtic might want to benchmark against a club like that, who I think have maybe been in something like 4 of the last 5 Champions League campaigns in terms of group stages. They're consistently qualifying, and the general pathway for them was the first season they qualified in recent times not so good, but then they get a few more points and a few more points, and I think they made the last 16 a couple of seasons ago.
They had their breakthrough. I think you're right, and it's something Ange referenced. Might have been Ange's first season or Ange's second season, our first season back in the Champions League under him, where people mentioned Club Brugge, and he said, look, they've had maybe 2 or 3 consistent years before they had that excellent season where they finished top of their group and got to the last 16. So it took them that being in the experience and being in the competition and learning it before they had their breakout season. So essentially you could argue that for this Celtic squad, our 3rd season now consecutively, this should be our kind of breakout season. But yeah, I think they had that, and I don't know what their situation was last season, but I think less successful. So maybe they had the peak and then they lost a lot of the players from that team. So yeah, it's a club that Arne Engles played for, so that will be an interesting viewpoint. And I know we obviously got 2 German sides as well, which he'll know all about. So yeah, it's not a team for us to be complacent over, but for a pot 2 side, it was one that stood out as a team that we kind of see as our level, someone that we've previously said we can aspire to achieve what they've achieved, but they, like us, are probably a club that lose their best players pretty quickly as well, and then have to replace them.
They've lost Jack Henry.
There you go. That's a perfect example.
He was there. I've given the links there in terms of some of the folks that have featured for Celtic and Villa. Jack Henry's done the same for Brugge, and Ronnie Dyler, no less. He had some reasonable success there. We were chatting earlier on. I don't think he won the title, did he? But he was part of them for a time. We'll need to check that. But obviously, Ronnie Dyler, I think there's no doubt Ronnie Dyler got rolled out for this one. Martin O'Neill get rolled out, and Sutton obviously for the Villa one, and various others. Similarly, Borussia Dortmund, I think that's a really exciting fixture. Paul Lambert, stand by your phone because you're going to be busy. But I'm delighted that we get that one away from home. I think that epitomises the glamour of European football for me. A ferocious home crowd, the famous yellow wall, and Celtic fans who'll travel. Celtic fans will travel in numbers everywhere, whether they get tickets or not. And I think that could be a spectacular event. Yeah,
we were speaking about it in terms of we like to try and get an away trip in where we can, and we were maybe hoping we'll get two, but depends obviously. But Dortmund's the standout one, and I think that's the most popular one with a lot of fans because, as you say, it's iconic. The yellow wall, we've all seen it. The atmosphere looks tremendous. It's one that we've not done in my lifetime. I think similar for you. Not much between us. But yeah, it's going to be a special occasion, and as you say, I'm glad it's the away one as well. And again, a huge test for us. They nearly won the league 2 years ago. Very close. Obviously, last season it was Leverkusen, so I think Dortmund might have ended up finishing second. But it'll be a huge test. They're another club who trade very well. They lose a lot of their best players, but replace them and build again. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be interesting how the fixtures, the kind of order of the fixtures as well. We'll obviously find out. I think Saturday's the chat.
Okay.
So that could have a huge bearing as well. You ideally want to start with a nice home fixture.
An interesting guy for Celtic fans to follow at this moment in time will be Derek Ray. We've mentioned him recently, and again, he was inundated, but he was given some chat on Arne Engles, and let's just touch on that for a moment. So it looks like Celtic have got it over the line. I think it was confirmed in the last few moments before.
Yeah, 4-year deal apparently. Not officially announced by the club or anything, but that's what it's looking. He's going to fly in for a medical tomorrow. And
it looks like Celtic have smashed their transfer record fee, so 11 million sterling seems to be the fee they've paid there. So yeah, very interestingly from his point of view, and I'm sure he'd be excited, is that Club Brugge, a former club of his, are in our group, and Leipzig and Dortmund, who have come up against in recent times. So Derek Ray was speaking about Asim, and you highlighted the fact that he himself is quite excited for what Arne Engles could bring to Celtic and to Scottish football, and he believes he can play in a number of positions. So what was the gist of his chat on him?
Yeah, so it was on the Celtic Way, so if anyone wants to catch that, they can on one of the articles by Ryan McGinley. He's basically spoke about his versatility, so predominantly plays as a more kind of deeper line midfielder, but has the potential to play right as a 6, an 8, or a more advanced 10. The game that I seen clips of last weekend, they're playing Werder Bremen, he played predominantly in the more advanced number 10 role. So it just shows his versatility. But Derek Ray was kind of saying how he's not the finished article, but he's very, very technically gifted, work rate, technique. He's got good passing ability, good on a set piece as well, which I think something that we've lacked in the past, especially with Matt O'Reilly going now. We need someone that can be good in the set piece. And at 20 years old, a real potential to get better and better. And the fact that he's played so many games in a top league for a kind of middle of the table side, for me, gives me encouragement. It's the kind of player we've been speaking about for years, that's what we should be aiming for. Someone that's not a project, even though he's 20. We bought 20-year-olds before, and they do not have that wealth of experience playing at a high level. He's got the height as well. I think he's over 6 foot, so again, gives us a bit more of the physical presence. And I think he'll be a crucial player, particularly in Europe, we'll see probably, because it'll give Callum McGregor someone in there with him, and rather than sometimes he's doing the job of 2, I think it will be a crucial player in there. Obviously, we've not seen a lot of them, but people that have, like Derek Ray, quite reputable. If they're singing his praises and reckon he'll do pretty well at Celtic, I think that's a lot to be encouraged about.
Do you get the impression then that potentially, at least for Europe, Celtic will maybe slot somebody like Engles alongside Callum McGregor? So traditionally, as most folks will know, Callum McGregor sits deep in the number 6 position, and up until recently, Matt O'Reilly and Ray Hatate sat ahead of him. Potentially for Europe, could you see McGregor and Engles together, and either a Hatate or a Bernardo ahead of him, something like that?
Yes, it gives you the options, but I think so. I think Engles, we're not going to break our transfer record and not have big plans for him to come in and
Great guy to have on the bench.
Yeah, but it's all about adding depth and quality to your squad and variation. So if I feel like there could be that scope now, maybe Rio Tati play further forward, in a more advanced role, because Rio Tati's more carefree with his passing. It can it can be hit or miss sometimes, but when it comes off, he's brilliant, and you can. But if he's playing a more deeper position, it's a bit more risky. And I think Brendan at last season was probably one of the reasons that he wasn't fully in favour of Rio Tati at times, a bit more careless in possession. Bringing someone like Engles with McGregor could allow for a more creative, and give him that freedom, Rio, to play a wee bit further forward. It just gives us options. And then Bernardo, I thought some of his best performances last season were in Europe or against Rangers. So I just like the fact that we've got different options, and hopefully he'll come in and slot right in. He'll be fit because he's been playing. Yeah,
I think options is the optimal word here, because often, even last year, and I agree with you, I think Celtic were relatively competitive in the Champions League fixtures, except Madrid away, and there's Maeda circumstances to account for that. But I think when Brendan Rodgers looked towards the bench, there wasn't a lot to choose from in terms of trying to change the game or shore up the game or get back in the game. Now, with Engles at that money should be a quality addition. You and I spoke to Alex Baye, the new left back, should be a quality addition. And all of a sudden, Brendan Rodgers has got what's shaping up to be a very solid first 11 and 2, 3, 4, even 5 good options off the bench, and that's pretty exciting. What we'll be doing as a show, the Celtic Exchange, we'll be doing a transfer special, maybe late Friday night, maybe early on Saturday. Too much going on just now, Asim. But at some point we'll cover this in depth and we'll look at the squad. And I think, just to finish off on Arne Engles, it could be really exciting if this is Celtic now making a step into a different bracket. Do we now sign guys for 8, 9, 10, 11 million and sell for 30, 35, 40? That's going to be interesting. He's just here. We hope he's here for a few years to come, but it'll be interesting to see how that shapes up moving forward. The last club to look at is Leipzig. So we actually faced them not too long ago. Myself and James from the show, we were at the away game where Joe Hart set up one of the goals for Leipzig with a terrible outfield pass, but we lost 3-1 on that occasion. I think Jota scored to briefly make it one each.
It one each, aye.
And then we lose out in the day, and we lost 2-0 at Celtic Park. They're a club, obviously, they're part of the whole Red Bull group, them and Salzburg and the likes. They've got a few quid to spend, and of recent times they've produced some really good players, haven't they?
Yeah, they're another one of those sides just consistently reproduce talent, whether it's through the ranks or often they buy talent and they get them in quite cheap, develop them, and then they're off, and that's worked really well for them. We've played them, I think we played them under Rodgers as well, where we actually qualified ahead of them that season. Back in, I think it might have been 2017 or 2018, 2019, Rodgers' second season, beat them at home and lost away. So, but even then they were a good side, and we seen a couple of years ago pretty good as well. They've obviously lost a few players in Kunku from that time, Szoboszlai gone to Liverpool, but what they do is they continuously replace them with quality as well. So I think we've seen that when they came to Celtic Park. They were quite comfortable winners that night in 2 years ago. So I think we can expect a tough test against them as well. But look, that was the pot one side. That's what I was saying. You look at some of their other options we could have had. I still think that's a favourable draw, but that's not to say that it's by any means a given. It's a home game for us. And again, it'll probably be up there with, like you say, the Dortmund, Leipzig and Villa as the three most challenging. Not spoke about Atalanta yet, actually. That's another interesting one.
Of course, so current Europa League holders. So they were a very decent side. Very nearly had Matt O'Reilly amongst their squad to choose from.
We were looking at their away stadium allocations, and I was like, I don't know if that's one maybe we'll get a ticket because it looks pretty tiny.
I think there's room for a 52-seater, and that's about it. They're obviously a very decent side, though. They're ambitious. I think they've made some key additions across the summer, but they lost a guy to Juventus, haven't they?
Coop Miners.
Yes, he was obviously a key player for them. But what do you think? That's going to be a very tough game away from home.
Yeah, they're the only side that beat Bayer Leverkusen all season last year in the final and comfortably
3-0.
Lookman with the hat trick, and were very impressive. Their manager's, he's been around the block.
He's a wily old fox, isn't he?
Yeah. He's so they'll be tough. Of course they will. That's the thing. As much as we're excited about everything, people might be like, oh, how can we need to calm ourselves? But it's exciting. It's going to be tough. There's some real good challenges, but it's new teams as well. It's fresh. It's going to be something to look forward to. But like I said, the last thing we wanted coming away from that draw was a list of teams, and you're just like, we've got no chance. And I think what these games have offered is a real chance for us to test ourselves against quality opposition, but also a chance to actually compete and possibly get through.
I'm really keen to hear the manager's comments on it, and I'm sure Callum McGregor will be speaking as well. They'll potentially wrap this into tomorrow's pre-match press conference ahead of the Rangers game, but I'll be really keen to hear what he says, and I think he'll be quite buoyant about it, quite optimistic. And I think the fans, we've just got the reaction in terms of what Twitter and the likes is saying, and I think a lot of fans are really excited. What we'll do, Asim, is we're starting to wrap things up. I want to come to you with a question that we covered last Monday on our show. So we do a listener's question on our weekly show, and Robert McEwen, good friend of the show, asked us at the time, how many points do we think we'll accumulate in this new Champions League format? To an extent, it was quite a hypothetical because we just didn't know the draw and we didn't have an idea of how Celtic's squad was shaping up. We've got far more information to hand at this moment in time, so I'm going to put you in the spot. I need to double check. I think Paddy thought we'd get around about 11. And
that was before the draw?
Before the draw. And the YouTube comments were, they were making that noise you made. James was far more cautious. He thought something around 6. I was kind of in between. I thought 9 or 10 points. I think I'll need to double check that. Now we know who we face. Now we think we'll have Arnie Engles there. We think we'll have Alex Baye there. We're hoping that Austin Trusty, the left-sided centre-half, will come in as a deadline day signing as well. All of a sudden, the squad are shaping up better. We know exactly who we'll face over these 8 games. What do you think? Can you put a number on it in terms of points? So 24 points up for grabs. What do you think?
No, obviously we're going to be going into it optimistic at this stage, but realistic as well. So I'm looking at Slovan Bratislava at home, Young Boys at home, and Club Brugge at home. I'm looking for 9 points out of those. Now, obviously, it might not transpire like that, but they're games that in any normal season, whether that's a Europa League or a Champions League, games that we'd be looking to win.
Yeah.
And then Leipzig at home, maybe. I would say I'm looking for 10 points from those 4 home games.
Right.
I know that's ambitious, but if I just break down the teams, if you said to me we're playing Slovan Bratislava at home on an individual game, you're thinking, let's go for 3 points. And then if you can pick anything, well, like I said, we've talked about 10 being the magic number, but if you can pick up even just a point, away from home in the other games, 11, you'd be happy with that. So I don't know how we'll get them, but I'm going to go with 11. 11. I think that's 3 wins, 2 draws. I
thought you were going to blow Paddy's 11 out of the water and say I think we can get 21 here too. I think there will be this, I think it's okay to say you and I are quite excited by the draw, quite optimistic. Some fans will be less so. Some fans will wait to see what happens by 11:30 on Friday night in terms of who comes in. But I just think there's genuine novelty about the draw. There's something different here, something fresh, and I think that's what's got a lot of people quite excited for what may lie in store. As I say, we're going to cover kind of more detail on the teams in the weeks ahead. I just think the way the tournament finishes, so all games will take place, I think it's January the something, I'll need to check the date, but all games will take place same time, same day, so it's not the Tuesday, Wednesday thing, some kickoffs at 6, some at 8 o'clock or whatever. And I suppose at that point, it could be set for a really exciting, imagine Celtic getting into that last game, needing a win or a point to qualify. It could be a really exciting thing, and I think that's part of the new format just in terms of how it's all shaping up. So listen, Asim, it's been great to enjoy the draw with you tonight and obviously cover it on this show here. Your final thoughts in terms of Celtic's Champions League aspirations this season?
I'll finish it the way I started it, that I've only had a brief look and I would like to see what other people's comments on it, but I think if you look through every single other team and their set of 8 fixtures, I genuinely think Celtic have got the most favourable set of 8 fixtures, and that's so crucial given the format is now pretty much one big table and your cumulative points against other teams. So, we've got a right good opportunity. I'm excited. I'm realistic still that we've not earned the right to be thinking, we can do this, that, the next thing, because our home form has been pretty shambolic in Europe. But I'm actually looking at that now. And to be honest, there was 4 out of the 7 points, 4 out of 9 last year, progress on the previous year in terms of home points. Yep. So I think we are getting better. And let's see what happens. It was great to speak to Alex Baye. I said that right. He seems a confident lad. He seems like he's not here just to be a backup understudy, and that was interesting because you feel like, okay, genuine quality competition at left back now. Arnie Engles, let's hope we get 2 more in, Tino. Austin Trusty seems like that could be close. And if we can get another wee midfielder or winger in.
A wee curveball.
we can go into Sunday full of hope as well. It's an exciting week, and hopefully another exciting few days to come.
Yeah, do you know, it's been a huge week for Celtic. So you heard it here first, folks. Asim's got us at least semi-finals, maybe even further on. But it's an exciting time all round. So draw tonight, big stuff. We'll find out tomorrow for sure. Friday, who we've got in the squad for the season ahead. Sunday's the big kick-off against Rangers, first derby of the season. We'll be here with different shows to cover all of that. But in the meantime, thanks for joining us. We'll see you all again soon.
Cheers.